Navy pilots describe stunning UFO sightings, hypersonic speeds, no exhaust plume, by Lt Ryan Zerohedge. This has to do with the various Department of Defense infrared videos taken by U.S. Fighter pilots. It's not only the U.S. that has these infrared videos, they've also been reported in Mexico and other countries of Latin America in infrared. Otherwise, they can't pick them up for some reason, but in this case, they have them on radar, and they locked into them. After upgrading the radar systems on FA-18 fighter jets, several Navy pilots operated from the aircraft carrier Theodore Roosevelt began to see unidentified flying objects, UFOs, that appeared to defy the law of physics. Between 2014 and 15, these strange objects, one of them spinning like a top as it traveled against the wind, appeared almost daily in the skies above the East Coast. Daily. That's frightening. The crafts had, quote, no visible engine or infrared exhaust plumes, end quote, and could reach 30,000 feet and hypersonic speeds. This is according to the New York Times. There's an embedded video in here that I'll have the link to the article so you can see it. You can also hear the pilot's voice as they're talking to each other. What is that thing, and look at that thing, and all that. Now, these things would be, to be clear, these crafts were reported March of 2018, so this is not a new report, but the accounts of 5 pilots who witnessed them have never been published until now. These things would be out there all day, said Lt Ryan Graves, an FA-18 Super Hornet pilot. They were out there all day, he said. And this Super Hornet pilot, who has been in the Navy for a decade, Graves reported his sightings to the Pentagon and to Congress. Quote, keeping an aircraft in the air requires a significant amount of energy. With the speeds we observe, 12 hours in the air is 11 hours longer than we would expect. In late 2014, a Super Hornet pilot had a near collision with one of these objects, and an official mishap report was filed. Some of the incidents were videotaped, including one taken by a plane's camera in early 2015 that shows an object zooming over the ocean waves as pilots questions what they are watching. Wow, what is that, man? One exclaims, look at it fly. So, quote, there were a number of different reports, end quote, said Navy spokesman Joseph Gardisher, who said that while some cases could have been commercial drones, in other cases, he says, we don't know who's doing this, we don't have enough data to track this, so the intent of the message to the fleet is to provide update guidance on reporting procedures for suspected intrusions into our airspace, end quote. Well, I doubt that drones could go at supersonic speeds, but anyway. The sightings were reported to the recently acknowledged Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, which analyzed the radar data, video footage, and accounts from senior officials aboard the Roosevelt at the time. According to military intelligence officials Luis Elizondo, who ran the program until resigning in 2017, the sightings are, quote, a striking series of incidents, end quote. The program, which began in 2007 and was largely funded by the request of Harry Reid, the Nevada Democrat who was the Senate Majority Leader at the time, was officially shut down in 2012 when the money dried up, according to the Pentagon. But the Navy recently said it currently investigates military reports of UFOs, and Mr. Elizondo and other participants say the program, part of it remains classified, has continued in other forms. The program has also studied video that shows a whitish oval object described as a giant tic-tac, about the size of a commercial plane, encountered by 2 Navy fighter jets off the coast of San Diego in 2004. Lieutenant Graves is still at a loss to describe what he saw in the summer of 2014, when he and Lieutenant Danny Acoyne, another Super Hornet pilot, were part of the Red Rippers VFA-11 squadron operating out of Oceana, Virginia. They were training for a redeployment to the Persian Gulf. Graves and Acoyne spoke on the record to the Times, while 3 other pilots spoke on condition of anonymity. It all began following an upgrade from their 1980s era radars to Raytheon AN/ASQ-228 advanced targeting forward-looking infrared AT FLIR pods, one of the most advanced imaging devices in use by the military, which can locate and designate targets at a distance of over 40 miles. One fighter pilot after another began picking up the objects, initially ignoring what they thought were false radar tracks. Quote, "People have seen strange stuff in military aircraft for decades," Graves said, "and we're doing this very complex mission to go from 30,000 feet diving down. It would be a pretty big deal to have something up there," end quote. Graves added that the objects were an ongoing phenomenon showing up at 30,000 feet, 20,000 feet, and even at sea level. The craft could accelerate, slow down, and then hit hypersonic speeds, according to the report. Lieutenant Acoin said that he had 2 encounters with the objects, the first of which he tried to intercept the craft's course by flying 1,000 feet below it. And while he couldn't see it with his helmet camera, his radar told him it was there. In the second encounter, Acoin said a training missile on his jet locked onto the craft, which his infrared camera picked up as well. He said, adding, "I knew I had it. I knew it was not a false hit. I could not pick it up visually." The pilots chalked it up with some sort of classified and extremely advanced drone program. Then they began to see them with their own eyes. In late 2014, Lieutenant Graves said he was back at base in Virginia Beach when he encountered a squadron mate just back from a mission, quote, with a look of shock on his face, unquote. He said he was stunned to hear the pilot's words, quote, "I almost hit one of those things," and quote, the pilot told Lieutenant Graves. The pilot and his wingman were flying in tandem about 100 feet apart over the Atlantic east of Virginia Beach when something flew between them, right past the cockpit. It looked to the pilot, Lieutenant Graves said, like a sphere encasing a cube. After the near miss, Graves and the other interviewed pilots said the squadron were no longer convinced of the classified drone theory, as government officials would know fighter pilots were operating in the area, and they reasoned would not operate drones nearby. Quote, "It turned from a potentially classified drone program to a safety issue," Graves said, and he added it was going to be a matter of time before someone had a mid-air collision. What was strange, the pilot said, was that the video showed objects accelerating to hypersonic speed, making sudden stops and instantaneous turns, something beyond the physical limits of a human crew. Lieutenant Graves said, "Speed doesn't kill you, stopping does, or acceleration." Asked what they thought the objects were, the pilots refused to speculate. Quote, "We have helicopters that can hover," Lieutenant Graves said. "We have aircraft that can fly at 30,000 feet and right at the surface, but combine all that in one vehicle sometime with no jet engine, no exhaust plume." In March of 2015, the Roosevelt departed the coast of Florida for the Pacific Gulf to help fight the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, after which the incidents tapered off, according to the pilots. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.